Hey y'all, today I'm going to show you how to make gluten-free chocolate cupcakes, but not just chocolate cupcakes, 3 or 4 different varieties from one recipe. This one happens to be chocolate frosted with real chocolate sprinkles, but you can also make vanilla frosted, plain chocolate frosted, or vanilla frosted with real chocolate sprinkles, all from one recipe. They're so good, y'all. My specialty, according to my family and anyone who has had them, has always been cakes, cupcakes, frostings of all sorts. People try them and wonder why they're so good, and I'm here to show you. So let's get into it and I'll show you how to make them. Okay, first I'm going to whisk together the dry ingredients. I have 2.5 cups or 375 grams of Kim's gluten-free all-purpose flour here. And to that, I'm going to sift in 1.25 cups or 132 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder, Dutch process or natural, it doesn't matter, 2.25 teaspoons of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoons of kosher salt. This is my go-to gluten-free chocolate cake recipe. I use it for any time I need a chocolate cake base, cupcakes, cakes, anything. I used to really not like chocolate cake when I was a kid, but I think that was because every chocolate cake I ever had was really dry. That's why my birthday cakes were always yellow or white. My mom's cakes were the best, but I don't think she ever made chocolate cake. This chocolate cake, though, this will blow your mind by how wonderfully light and moist it is. And it's so simple. You're going to see in a minute just how easy it is to pull together. It's going to become your go-to cake as well. So I've got my stand mixer here simply because it's always on my counter, but you can definitely use a handheld mixer for this, or honestly, you could probably just use a large bowl and a whisk. I'm going to add all the wet ingredients now to the bowl of my mixer, starting with 3 eggs, which are at room temperature, of course, 1 3/4 cups or 420 grams of whole milk, also at room temperature. You can sub that with a dairy-free milk if you need to. And 3/4 cups or 180 grams of vegetable or canola oil or any neutral oil. This is an oil-based cake, and because of that, it's not going to dry out as fast as butter-based cakes do. And I'll add about a tablespoon or so of vanilla extract, and I'll just mix this on low real quick while I'm adding in the sugar. So this is 2 3/4 cups or 550 grams of granulated sugar. And I'm going to let this go for about 30 more seconds or so. And then I'll add in those dry ingredients a little at a time so they don't fly up and get chocolate everywhere. And lastly, on low, I'm streaming in 1 1/4 cups or 300 grams of very hot coffee. You can use boiling water, but I always add coffee to any of my chocolate baked goods because it really truly does bring out that chocolate flavor, and it makes it taste so much more chocolatey and just yummy. That's all there is to this cake batter, y'all. Let me just scrape the bottom and sides just to make sure everything is incorporated. Before I bake the cupcakes, I'm going to actually let this batter sit for just about 10 minutes or so. And while I do that, I'll preheat my oven to 350 Fahrenheit. This is a very thin batter, y'all, so it'll thicken slightly, just ever so slightly as it sits, but it's just a thin batter, so when you see how thin it is, don't be alarmed. That's how it's supposed to be. I found that the cupcakes have a much better dome top when the batter sits for just a few minutes. So I'm going to catch you back here in a few minutes and we'll get these in the oven. Okay, y'all, here are my 2 12-cup muffin pans, and I've lined them with cupcake liners. And I've got a large cookie scoop here. I'm filling these cupcake liners about 3/4 full. I think that's the perfect fill height for a nice slightly domed shape. You don't want to go too overboard and then have them kind of all run together. We're going to bake these for 22 to 25 minutes. or until they spring back when lightly touched, or a toothpick inserted into the center comes out with just a few moist crumbs attached. So we'll let these cool in the pans for 5 minutes, and then we'll remove them to a wire rack to cool completely. And while they're cooling, let's make the buttercream. This is an American buttercream, but it's way better than most American buttercreams because it has the same amount of powdered sugar in weight as it does butter. So we'll be making 2 buttercream flavors from one recipe, and I'm going to make the vanilla first. I'm only making half batch in the video here, but what you'll need is 3 cups or 680 grams of softened butter, and I'll just cream that up briefly, and then an equal amount by weight of powdered sugar, 6 cups or 680 grams. And I'll just spoon this in a little at a time until it's all in there. And then let me add some vanilla, about a tablespoon, give or take. Y'all know me, I never measure vanilla. Now that everything's in there and combined, I'm going to increase the speed to medium or medium high and just let it go for a good 5 minutes. People will inevitably ask me about adding milk or cream, but it's really not necessary. You'll see this transform before your eyes from a thick, heavy, dense mixture to the lightest, fluffiest, most amazing buttercream, y'all. You see how the color already has changed? It's become much lighter in color already. Okay, let me show you just how good this is up close. Check it out, y'all. It's just the best frosting. And it can be made into so many different flavors. Just be creative. Make whatever flavor you want. Chocolate, pistachio, lemon. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. So now I'm going to drop this down to low. This is my trick for getting most of those big air bubbles out and smoothing the frosting out even further. And I'm going to let it go for just about 30 seconds or so on low, and that'll like knock out a lot of those air bubbles. Okay, I've already removed half of the frosting into another bowl. That's for my vanilla frosting, and now I'm going to add to this frosting 6 ounces or 170 grams of melted semi-sweet chocolate. It's good quality chocolate here. Make sure it's good quality. This is Calabo. I mean, any good quality. Don't use chocolate chips that have been melted. They will give a totally different texture, and they'll probably seize up, and there will be little bits of chocolate chips in your frosting. And this is slightly cooled, by the way. This amount of chocolate makes for a light chocolatey flavor. If you want a more chocolatey flavor, you can add as much melted chocolate as you want, even milk chocolate or dark chocolate. I went with semi-sweet. If you want more of a fudge frosting, check out my video for the ultimate chocolate fudge cake up above. Look at how yummy this looks, y'all. It's so freaking good. All right, my cupcakes have cooled, but I want to show y'all something. These are the cupcakes that I let sit for 10 minutes before baking. And then I made these just yesterday, and they were baked right after I whipped up the batter, so no letting the batter sit. And I also used Dutch processed cocoa in these. There's nothing at all wrong with these cupcakes. They're still absolutely delicious and moist. It's just what your preference is. If you want a flatter cupcake, don't let the batter rest before baking. If you want a little dome to your cupcakes, then let it rest. So I filled a piping bag fitted with an open star tip, which is, I believe it's a Wilton 1M, with some of the vanilla buttercream, and I'll just do some as a swirl on top. And like I said, you can make 3 or 4 different varieties of cupcakes, so everybody gets their choice of what they want. You can do all of them with the swirl on top, or all of them with chocolate swirl on top, whatever you want to do. but I like a little more variety. So I'm going to switch now to the chocolate, and I've got a large round tip. I think this is a 1A tip, and I'm just going to squeeze like a big blob on some of these just for a different look. But this trick is my favorite. I take a large cookie or ice cream scoop, and I'm scooping a large mound of frosting on top. And then I have a little bowl filled with these real chocolate flecks, they're called, or sprinkles. I'll leave a link for these. These are really good. They're kind of pricey, but they're worth it. It's a big bag. They'll last forever. And I just dip the cupcake, flip it over, dip it in the flecks of chocolate, and then turn it around gently to make a nice mound. You see that? It's just really, really easy. You can do this with any sprinkles, any like sanding sugar or whatever you want. I just love these real chocolate sprinkles though. Once I had a cupcake with them on, I knew I had to get some. You can even freeze the entire bag for like a year. So even though they're a bit pricey, it's worth it. You can also dip some of the vanilla ones in the sprinkles too if you want, like this. And that's all there is to it, y'all. How easy is that? We've just made a ton of different chocolate cupcakes, all from one cupcake and buttercream recipe. I love, love, love the sprinkle ones. These are my favorite. It is such a great cake that I can actually eat it without the frosting though. You know a cake is good when you don't need frosting, right? But we've got frosting, and it's really great frosting, so why would we leave the frosting behind? I wish you could taste this right now, y'all. The coffee is what really makes these cupcakes, I'm telling ya. You don't know it's there. It just makes them so chocolatey. You're gonna love them. Enjoy.